Welcome everybody to another one of our little hangout sessions in the meditation space here at New Eden. Today I'm with one of my dear brothers, Nicolas Perrin from a land down under. He's from Australia, I'm from New Zealand, but we're both completely free of our identity of being of these lands. Nicolas has been on a global adventure the last 18 months, staying in pretty amazing places, going to sacred sites around the world, visiting sustainable communities, eco-villages, spiritual communities, soaking up the wisdom of how to live in collective consciousness. He's also one of my galactic brothers. And he's just a really, really unique, incredible human being that I met in the Virgin Islands about a year and a half, 2 years ago now. One of those connections that, you know, have life, and we've nurtured it. And he's come here to the Netherlands to hang out with me for the last week, where we've been having a great little time of reunion and catching up on his adventures. And so today is really an opportunity to soak up not just some of the learnings of his journey, but also Nicolas, for me, embodies his truth in the world. You know, it's one to have what I believe a really strong inner connection which you have, and you navigate your inner worlds amazingly, more clear than many others I know. But you are also one of the inspirations for me to just live it in the world, you know, the way you relate to money and following your heart and being in integrity with your soul is amazing. And I guess that's actually a good place to start. What is the principle of how you live your life?
What a great question to begin. So often the greatest challenges that we have in our lives become the treasures that really allow for the future fruits to really blossom. And what that was for me was that for most of my life, I really felt that who I was not okay, and how I really wanted to show up in the world would not be acceptable, would be rejected, would be denounced. And so there was this constant feeling that I needed to fit into society, fit into what others wanted, fit into the expectations of family, society, education, and so this created a really big tension for me for most of my life. And what I realized was from my early 20s that something very big was taking place, and I had to make a choice. And the choice was either to stay in the closet and to live a life that was not true to my heart and soul, or to take a big risk and to really step into the unknown and to say yes to me. And at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. I can even feel like a little bit of sadness and a little bit of a memory coming up of one example of this. One of the first big challenges that really hit me in my life was when I was in my early 20s. One of the games that I was playing was I was not really being completely honest with myself in terms of my sexuality and how I wanted to express that into the world. And I had to make a decision earlier on to honor my desire to, at the time I classified myself as being a gay man, but actually sort of 12 years on, I recognize I'm actually non-binary. I'll explain what that is later on. But this was an example of me opposing what, let's say, society deemed to be acceptable, normal, good, acceptable, and all of that. But I had to make a decision, which was, am I going to be true to myself, or am I going to stay in a box? And the decision that I made at the time was, even if I have to start my life all over again, which means that even if my family, even if my friends, my connections, even if everyone rejected who I was, that I had to be okay with that. I had to accept the worst case scenario. And it was a very challenging moment to make that decision. And that was only one in many decisions. That was one of the earlier ones, because before that I was good at school, I was good at sport, I was fitting in and blending in really well. I had a greater capacity to be a chameleon in life. And there is an advantage with that ability as well. But in this case, it was actually detrimental to me honoring who I am at a soul level. And what I've learned over the years is that my soul is very quirky. I have a very wide range in terms of the polarity of what I can express in this world. I can be very serious, I can go into deep wisdom, I can be very silly, very playful, I can connect to my feminine aspects very well, my masculine aspects. and a whole variety of other things. And the range that I was able to express in society was very limiting. But I believed that I needed to put myself in this box, to be loved, to belong, to be acceptable. So that was the trade-off that I was unconsciously making. So to answer, I've given you that example, Anthony, but to kind of, to sum it up, it's to make a decision that I'm going to be true to my heart no matter what. And that the decision to be true to myself is more important than what other people may think of me. And even if I have to start my life again, because even if those who are connected to me, whether it's friends, family, business connections, even if they do reject who I am, then that's better than me actually rejecting or betraying myself.
That's big. And that's very, very beautiful. And that's what I think one of the biggest things I notice with you is how in integrity with your soul's calling you are. And I think you often even use the words like that. I'm in integrity with my soul beyond anything else, right? But first it's actually getting connected deeply enough to be able to distinguish, right? And so do you want to share about how you experience that distinction between this is what my soul or my heart is telling me to live and go for, and how to listen, how to cultivate a listening and actually being receptive to that?
Yeah, sure. So again, for most of my life, my heart was completely shut down and my capacity to feel emotions was very limited, and I was very much living from my mind. And I've got a very potent mind, which is an asset, but can also be a hindrance. And even to this day, I've learned to really celebrate the extraordinary capacity and utility of the mind. However, when the mind is not connected to the body, when there is a disconnection from the body and the heart is blocked and not open, then the ability to really receive those intuitive messages is very difficult. It's a little bit like, imagine that the body is like a radio. The intuition or soul message is always there. It's like a particular radio station that's playing. The problem is, if you're not tuned into it, you literally can't hear it. So it's not that your intuition or your soul is abandoning you, or you're not receiving the messages. It's just that the radio is not tuned in properly. So the question then is, what prevents that? A large one is the body is out of alignment. So too much toxins, whether that is pollution that has been ingested through the air, through what you drink, and also through what you eat. You'll be amazed how much of an impact what you put into your body will affect your ability to feel and also to receive messages. So doing a thorough detox twice a year is highly recommended. So that was something that naturally started to come into my awareness, and also gravitating towards foods that your body and your soul is feeling more aligned to, which may be more vegetables, more lighter foods, more live foods, rather than heavy processed foods, and eating less meat if you are eating meat, and to focus more on vegetables, green vegetables, fruits, and all of that. So that will just make a huge difference straight away. The other thing that I found that was essential was to actually spend time to bring your awareness into the inner world, because we've been conditioned to have all our awareness outside of us, to always look outside of us, right, out into the world, and so the energy is always going outwards. And in the beginning, I know for me, I found it quite difficult to be able to have an inner relationship. For me, when I closed my eyes, I would experience a lot of thoughts. My mind would be out of control. It was like some kind of merry-go-round going non-stop 24 hours a day. And I didn't know how to make that stop. And I really questioned, could I make that even stop? So I went through a whole meditational experience over many years. It wasn't a quick fix solution. For me, it happened over time. Again, I had to make a decision to spend time in the inner realms, realizing that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. So I realized if I can clean my mind out and also get more into my body, right? So there's a lot of somatic body work out there. There's a whole host of things I know that Heart IQ, which is what Christian Pankhurst runs at New Eden, is very much about that. But there's core energetics, body energetics, there's so many things. Even radiance dance, ecstatic dance, anything to get you into your body, to feel what's going on in the body, to release these trapped emotions, okay? Because the trapped emotions, in a sense, don't allow you to then hear that more subtle, softer, intuitive inner knowing. So the first phase is a purification of the body, purification of the mind, purification of your emotions. Once you've got to that level, then that voice will become stronger and stronger and stronger. Plus, if you take action on that inner knowing, then it'll also amplify as well. So again, there's a beautiful rule in life, which is what you focus on and where you place your attention, which is literally where you're directing your energetic life force energy. That is going to become a much stronger reality.
I'm loving hearing you share how you experience your inner world, because you are one of the more sensitive people that I know, and you've also been so committed. I don't know when you started your discovery, but I know you've looked at so many different modalities and ways of teaching and inner workings to come to what works for you now, which you seem to be doing less of doing other people's stuff and really just very clear in yourself. But you've also worked with people now for a number of years, right? Working people as a coach in workshops and stuff. Can you share what is at the heart of your work with people? Like when someone is working with you for a period of time, what is the journey? What are you supporting them in?
Yeah, sure. So my unique gift is to assist people to activate their soul blueprint. And there is something that happens in the background. It's not even something that I have to do. That when someone comes into my space, at another level of reality, things start to get turned on within them. It's like my energy field goes in and starts to switch things on. And what happens is I take people through a journey, and I say to people, I'm your guide, I'm not your mentor, I'm not your coach. I see you as a divine being, just as I'm a divine being. And it's a privilege and an honor to be of service to you, to be able to walk with you for a period of time. And what I've realized is that most people are not able, because of the amount of conditioning and the amount of distractions that are happening in the outer world, are not able to hold themselves in a container that is for their highest and best. And so through that soul activation that I help initiate through them, and they of course receive and accept that for themselves, we then go on a path where we discover what is it their soul really wants to explore in this life. Why have they come to earth at this time? What is it that they would love to contribute from a place of infinite possibilities, which also includes how they want to live. You know, like one of the big shifts in my life over the last 18 months is recognizing that I actually love being all over the planet, not just being grounded in one place like in Australia. A lot of people have said, don't you get tired traveling? At the moment, I'm not. There's a lot of energy. I get a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz from the variety and the expansion that is available on the planet. Beautiful planet Earth, all the different cultures and different ways of living. And it's like a smorgasbord of options. So I help people get in contact with what it is that they would love, because most people are aware of what they don't want, but very few people actually really know clearly what they do want in life, right? So I also help distinguish what is it that the person's soul would love and what their ego wants. And often those two things are very different. The problem is that if you follow just what your ego wants, you'll go through a cycle of creation, destruction, and you'll end up back at the same point. The soul has a lot of patience and it's willing to go on a little journey if the ego wants to do something, but it won't be sustainable. So to help people see perhaps what are some of the limiting beliefs or desires that the ego is pushing for, so that they don't have to go through those often painful learnings. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but again, the point of having a guide like me is instead of spending 10 years to find your path, you might find it in 1 year. So it's an accelerated expansion experience. You get on the track, you have someone there that can hold you accountable, and also someone to celebrate the changes, the shifts, the evolution that happens in your life, And isn't it awesome as well to be able to receive financial support, financial abundance in your life, doing something that you love, making a difference in the world? And I love celebrating that with people as well.
I love it. I've seen one of my very close friends and his work with Nicolas, and it's powerful. It's really, it's just really unique, honestly, seeing the things. I remember when my friend was working with you and seeing the things he was into, but he had such a beautiful experience working with you. And I'm glad you're doing it again with people now, because you stopped when you've been on this journey, right? You really let your energy go. And so that's actually something I want to ask. 16 months ago now, you had a pretty good setup where you were in Sydney, Australia. Sure. You were living in a beautiful place.
Yeah.
You were doing the things you loved. Like, your life was in complete alignment. And 16 months ago, you received the guidance to let go of it all, sell all your stuff mostly, and go on this journey. Can you share about that?
Yeah, so this is a great example of how the soul likes to play in life. It's not about security, it's not about comfort, it's not about predictability. The soul, it's all about experience. And so what happened for me was I'd created at an individual level everything that I wanted. Beautiful house, I had the most amazing friend and dear soul flatmate, where we created a beautiful haven. Everything that we wanted to create in that house we did. We had beautiful events called Evolving Consciousness. We had deep, authentic conversations with each other. I had all the material things that I wanted. I could do what I wanted when I wanted. I was going overseas on travels. I was helping beautiful souls on their path. And my life was everything that I had thought I wanted, 2 years before when I was doing the visioning. But what happened is there was something inside me that recognized, wow, it's not just about me and it's not just about my individual clients. There's something bigger that's wanting to move through me at the moment, and it was about the planet. It was about humanity as a collective. And it was a very strong intuition that came in. It was just, you've got to sell everything, pack everything up and go. And when I checked in with myself and went, okay, what is the sign? Thinking that perhaps there might be a sign outside of me, like a car going like, go overseas, or, follow your heart, or something like that. But actually it was a very strong inner feeling. And it was like a sun filled with joy that just exploded inside. And I just knew, okay, that's it. And I made the decision then and there within 2 to 3 minutes of that intuition coming in. It was very strong knowing, and I was like, I've got to do this. And I didn't fully know what I was signing up for. Of course, there's always, how is it going to unfold? How is there going to be financial support? There's always the how question for all of us. It's not for any, you might be thinking at home, but what about the how? Well, we don't know the how. That's not what we have to worry about. It's just the what and the why. And so there was this very strong feeling that came over me, and I realized that my contribution to the planet wasn't just about working with individuals. There's another part of my purpose that was ready to now come out, that was not ready before. I was not in energetic alignment to even contemplate that. And what this was to go and explore the new systems and structures of how humanity can live together, like new society templates in a way. How that connects to a higher level of consciousness and the evolution of these two things together. In relationship to that, I was also very interested around how can an individual's freedom be fully allowed and fully honored, as well as that individual being committed and plugged in to a collective vision, whether it's a community or whether it's a society. And so the first step, the instruction that came through was go around the world and go to different communities, see what people are already doing around the planet, because there already is clearly a big shift where many people are saying that the city environment and how we live in a city is not good for me. It's not good for my body, it's not good for my mind, and it's not good for my soul. And I've certainly woken up to that more and more and more as I've had the contrast experiences of going into harmonic environments and then going back into city environments, and in many different city environments, not just in Australia, which is where I live, but all over Europe, Central America, South America, Japan, Thailand, Bali, and South Africa, and many other places. So, I've really explored the variety of city environments that are available on the planet, and they all have very similar kind of undertones to them. So And then connected to that as well was going to these different sacred sites. And this is a little bit more out there, and there are some people that understand this, and there's a lot of people that don't. But again, this was something that was inherently just a known inside my being. Going to stone circles, doing certain ceremonies, working with the energies in these stones, where in ancient times there was powerful ceremonies that took place. And a lot of the time I didn't even really know consciously what these ancient technologies were about. But it's just about, again, showing up and just staying open, going, show me, guide me. And I had the privilege of doing certain ceremonies with lots of different people, and the same thing happened. We would all drop into this amplified field together and resume and allow the ceremony to move through us. And I suppose this is the message that I would like to share with you. It's like, allow life to move through you. You don't need to know how. Like, allow it to move you. Like the breath moving through your lungs. Like it's really a space of allowing and not trying to work things out and trying to understand everything. The understanding can and does drop in often from a retrospective place. Like 2 or 3 years in the future, you can look back and you'll be like, oh wow, now I get why that happened. Now I understand why I met these people. Now I understand why I was drawn to go to these parts of the planet. But in the moment, for me, often I have no idea what's going on.
You know, this adventure is, we here at the center, Nicolas shared about the adventure a little bit the other night, and you were in the pyramids in where?
Bosnia.
Bosnian pyramids, which are the oldest pyramids on the planet, right?
Well, they could be older ones, but these ones were carbon dated at 34,000 years ago, so they're really old.
And you've literally been all over the world, right? You've been in Japan.
Yeah.
Have you been in Africa at all?
South Africa.
South Africa.
And I'm going to Egypt next month.
You're going to Egypt. Where else have you been? You've been in South America?
All over South America, all over Central America, yeah.
And a lot in Europe too.
All over Europe.
So the diversity of communities has been profound on what you've seen. You've really seen what's here on the planet, from the really ancient tribes through to more of the modern day communities and eco-villages and whatnot.
And continuing.
You're still on the journey.
I'm still going. Yeah.
You know, I often ask Nicolas, he's still going? He's like, yeah, still going. Just check out, nothing else has happened yet. No, still going. And then you're going to Guatemala. Is it Guatemala?
Yes, that will be next year.
To actually build a community and now be involved in the building process.
Yes.
You're going to Egypt to do a month pilgrimage around the Egyptian pyramids. And
all the sacred sites there. There's a special sacred, spiritual pilgrimage with a wonderful dear Australian, multi-dimensional, but fully giving our heart to planet Earth, Koala from the Divine University. So doing a pilgrimage with them and some other dear brothers and sisters.
You know what I love is that you honor your earth self, your normality, your everyday self, and your cosmic and galactic in such balance, you know. Most people that often hear people talking in more galactic or loose language, there's an ungroundedness to them, right? You're also really connected to the mundane, just the everyday life, but in full honoring and balancing of both and able to meet people in all ways. And I love that about you. I really like, damn, you navigate that really well, and you really speak so matter-of-factly here. Like, yep, galactic world, yep, higher realms, all this weird stuff going on extraterrestrial. And I just been traveling last month and spending like most days talking with normal people about normal everyday stuff, and you're like totally fine with it.
Yeah, and this was a very hugely humbling and deeply transformational realization and shift that needed to take place. One of the big traps that I have noticed, not only in my own life, but I've seen it in other people's lives, is that when there's a beautiful opening to the soul spirit space, and the ego nature is still going through an integration phase, which is totally normal. What happens is the ego shifts from being material or consumer orientated, right, which is all about, you know, I want to look good, I want to be the fittest, I want to have the hottest boyfriend or girlfriend, I want to have the biggest house, the biggest car, you know, playing that game, which is what the mainstream world is primarily focused on. Or when the awakening starts to happen, and then there's a sense, wow, there's something more to life than beyond the body and the 5 human senses, then the ego shifts into a spiritual, it's what's called a spiritual ego. And what that is then people start to put themselves on like pedestals. You know, I've done all of these trainings, or I can do this back bend in yoga, I'm super advanced, or even things like, be careful, like even people that are vegan, you know, go, I'm more spiritually advanced because, you know, I'm not consuming animals, or you know, my diet is super clean. So all of these things can be potentially things that the ego can attach to. And what I had to go through was a complete letting go. One of the reasons I feel that at a soul level, I was guided to let go of everything that I created in Sydney was to go through a humbling experience, to come back to not being anything and anyone. And it was really difficult because the first 4 months when I was in Europe, I would go to different communities and there was a part of me that felt the need to prove myself. Like when people were like, who are you and what do you do? There was a part of me that wanted to go, I've been this coach and I've done these workshops and had these experiences. And there was a part of me that was like, can I just be no one? Can I just sit there and just go, I'm just some random guy. Like I don't have anything to offer you. And it was really difficult to actually go through this deconstruction phase, and to often be in workshops or spaces where other people that had a lot less experience than me, and just be a humble participant and just open my heart to receive what they had to offer. And so that was a very big process for me over the last 18 months. Yeah, beautiful. So one of the things that you've inspired me on and I find most fascinating about your journey, and naturally you get asked a lot about, is how you relate and work with money, right? Which when we first met was a big theme in my life, still is. It's one of my biggest teachers, biggest causes for embodying and following my heart and cultivating real faith. And I see it as one of the sticking points of being able to take what we know universally and live it in this three-dimensional world as one of the greatest opportunities to go, I'm living this. You know, I'm not just believing it, I'm living in it. And out of all people I know, you've gone to great depths with this. I think there was an early moment where you also realized, like, actually, what I do and what I earn, that's just a limiting perspective of how life can provide goodness for me to live in the way that I want to live. Right? So can you share a little bit about, one, how you relate to money, and a little bit about your journey with it? Because it's incredible. You know, I can really speak and say that Nicolas has faced with such willingness this journey with money. You know, with the idea of being in integrity with your soul is, am I completely willing to say yes to whatever life invites me into without needing to get things in order first, without needing to figure things out, or without needing to get the how first. So I'd love to hear your sharing on this. Yeah, sure. This was a big one, and you know, my old life, I was working in the corporate banking world, so I was really in the old paradigm and really in the belly's beast, and so I know what it feels like to be in a 9-to-5 world, high achiever, corporate way of living. You know, that was my background, that was the trajectory that I was going on. But I think one of the biggest decisions that I had to make was, when I left my last paid job, that was the last time that I earned money, trading time for money, was in 2012. And it was a very strong, again, one of those soul moments in life. And for me, the soul moments, when they come in, they can be very swift and very precise, and the trajectory can change very quickly. That's just my personal experience. And it literally was that I had this job working for an inspirational speaker and helping him run the business side of his events, and he was, you know, taking his work globally. And I literally had a job one day, and in 48 hours, you know, I was sitting on Bondi Beach going, my goodness, what just happened? You know, it was like my ego really got hit. And the message that came through again was, that came through for me was, begin the work now. And I had nothing set up. I didn't have a website, I didn't have anything. And I'd only run a couple of workshops before that, and I'd done some energy healing work with a few people. So I was really thrown in the deep end, but I had to trust, wow, this has manifested for a reason. I can trust that obviously whatever is going to unfold in my life will support me to get to where I need to go. And the first 6 months were very difficult. a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, and I had to sit through and go through these intense, very intense moments of initiations of fire. But what I felt inside me was that I just knew that I could not go back and have a job again. I just knew that was done. And so the message that I kind of want to share with you is, you've got to be so, like, when a decision's been made, there's got to be a real 100% commitment behind it. Like, no matter what, I'm not going to falter to that decision, because then what happens is then the resources and the new timelines can come into your life, right? But often there'll be like a shadow or an echo effect that will come back, that will kind of be like, are you sure you don't want that? Are you sure you don't want a job? And I've had so many clients that at that moment of decision, there's been a really good job offer, like a 40% pay rise. Like, it's like the old is like trying to lure you back. Like, are you sure you want to make that decision? You'll be really tempted. It happened for me as well. And it seems to be another fire of initiation. You've got to really hold true to that decision. The decision that I had to make was, I said I'd be willing to be homeless for a period of time rather than go back and earn money for a job. And because the feeling of selling my time and my energy for money did not resonate for me anymore. I was like, I've got to find a new way. So what that did, to kind of answer how I relate to money, is I realized through some of the mentors that I was working with at the time, and one of the teachings, Bashar, which I would recommend that you connect with as well, I definitely received a lot of inspiration through that, was this idea that through my existence, I already am 100% worthy. And because I'm already 100% worthy, there's nothing that I need to prove to myself. I don't need to achieve anything. I don't need to actually do anything to get anything, right? And because the universe is already abundant, everything in the universe can already be supported, because if it couldn't be supported, then it wouldn't have been built into the actual makeup of it, right? So therefore, the question then is like, okay, everything that my soul requires for me to live the life that I already chose at a soul level for my incarnation is already here, right? And to see them as props in a movie, right? And it's really just about beginning to perceive these props through the frequency that I hold. And this was a very empowering moment for me when I realized, okay, as long as I take responsibility for my energy and I continue to clean myself up, let go of the conditioning of the external world and connect into a deeper truth, then these props will emerge, because they already are built into my story, into my life story, and they're available for me. The thing is though, I've got to actually lift my game in order to perceive them so that they can come into my life. Right? And I have lots of amazing stories that I can share. I'll share a couple just to give you an example. But the key thing is that I want to share here is that your story, your unfoldment will be totally unique to you. And there is no one way, there is no 5-step formula. There's nothing that you can hold on to this, because someone else's story can only inspire you to make that choice for yourself. So I'm only going to share these examples just really so that you can welcome in possibilities that perhaps you thought were impossible. So in 2013, a company that I'd formed with 3 other amazing beings ended up collapsing, right? And it was a very big initiation for me. The lesson that I learned from that very unexpected collapse was that I had to stand in my power and know that I was enough, that I'm enough, and that everything that I require can and will move through me. And I went to a Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent retreat. And I asked the question, I said to the universe, if I'm meant to be doing something else, if I'm not meant to be doing coaching and doing any of this, then that's fine. I'm willing to let that go and step into something else. You know, show me the way. And as that inner voice is always, it's quite a little bit cheeky. It's like, no, everything is perfect. You just need to start your own business and everything will be good. And I was like, oh my God, now I'm going to go through this whole thing again, but this time by myself. And all the resources came in. My branding, that was where Lionheart Coaching came in. A dear friend of mine really helped me with the branding blueprint of that. Website got created, videos got created. Things like happened so quickly. Like in 3 weeks, I had a fully functional business ready to go. But what was amazing is that I actually, because when everything collapsed, my resources were almost gone. And just to give you an idea, I even contemplated getting welfare. One of my friends was like, why don't you just go and get government welfare just to kind of help stabilize you for a bit before you actually begin? And I even went into the office and I was talking to this guy, and then there was this message that came out, don't waste your time, get out of this building. So I ended up leaving going, oh my God, last time I listened to anyone. I know that they meant well, but it wasn't relevant in my story. And the message that came in at that time was, see this as an adventure. Like, see this as a fun, incredible journey where there's no way that I can predict what is going to happen in my life. And so every day what I did was, I was like, what is going to happen today? What is going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen, but something really good's going to happen today. And I just felt this excitement, but not for anything. And I just knew that if I just stay in this energy of excitement and playfulness and curiosity, that something would happen. And about a week later, I received a check in the mail from a bank. And the bank was, here's $20,000, interest-free loan for 18 months. I was like, you beauty. That's the money that I needed to be able to start my business, because I didn't have anything at that time. And then it was like, I just flowed into Lionheart. And from literally from nothing, I started, like in 2 or 3 months, I had clients, everything was flowing, I was running events, and my life was completely different. It transformed like that. And that's, I suppose, the final comment that I'd like to share is that life can change really, really, really quickly. When there is that faith, when there is that inner knowing and that curiosity and playfulness, then things can change very quickly. Even if your life is looking like shit that's just flying off the ceiling fan and it's looking pretty epic, it can change. It can change very quickly. And the power is in you as long as you're willing to take responsibility for it.
And you have a lot more stories than just that. I mean, I worked hard to get them out of you, because when I was in this phase of looking for the validation of, look, I've received a knowing that I can follow my heart and life will always support me. It was hard for me to find other people's stories of actually doing it. And so when I met you, I was saying, tell me some of your stories, because the stories make it real. And you told me some crazy stories, money coming in from all sorts of interesting places. And I now have a lot of these stories myself after having lived this for some time. But I think one of the hardest things to get to, despite its truth, is what you said, which is, I exist. And because the universe has created something that just exists, it is unconditionally supported. It is part of the ocean of oneness. Nothing within oneness would ever not support itself, but only in our perception of being, this is me, there's life, I have willpower that allows me to do different things and receive different things. That concept can never drop in. And that's what I see even in the first part of it, which is, say, law of attraction. Okay, I can manifest something, which means I don't have to work for it, but I can energetically create it. It still has me and life. It's still conditional on me aligning to the right vibration to receive it, which is true in some regards. And then at some point you just realize the unconditional nature of life, which is, hey, just live. It's so simple. Just follow your heart. Like, I'm here and you will see me along the way. And that, for me, I don't know if that's your piece too, is the wisdom of, at least in my world, the truest way to relate with money and following your heart, which is, look, I don't know. I'm probably not going to be in a high vibration every single moment, but I can at least stay true to where my excitement is, where my energy feels like it wants to go. And look, it's going to be tender, it's going to be raw. I'm going to have to face the parts of myself that are deeply wounded by the idea of being unsupported. I'm going to have to feel these things that I haven't been willing to feel. And that's what that journey is about for me. When money things come in my life, it's really this core feeling. And even though I've gone through so many layers of it, sometimes it still comes up, but the train is still moving forward. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking, is my train still moving forward, or am I like going and then halting? We're in the process of creating these companies, and we're doing it with little money. And I haven't been working much recently. I've been on my own inner process, and so I have given up the focus on money. There's always been enough for me to live. Doesn't mean there's a lot in the bank account, and it's still meeting these edges over and over again. And I believe it's the same for you on this journey.
Totally.
The fear gets less because you have so many stories, but these parts of our consciousness are still there, like, hey, what are you going to do, man?
Totally.
Sort your life out.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is true. Like, we go through cycles, and the other thing that I've realized is that we're never given something that we can't handle. So as you mature and as you evolve, then you maybe get more challenging things to face. But the thing is, you'll have the resiliency and you'll have the inner strength to be able to face them. I feel like I'm going through one of these initiations now where, I recognize, like, wow, in terms of my financial resources, I'm coming into the space very soon where I'm going to be like, okay, let's see how this is going to happen. And the impetus inside me is, I need to go to Central America and be there for 4 months to help receive some practical experience in building this community. And I've also got to trust that, the resources and the capacity to do what I need to do will happen. One of the other things to remember is that money is just one of the ways that abundance can flow in. It's not the only way. And this is also something to pay attention to, because I've noticed that money so far in my life has been a prop that has flowed consistently, but I also know others that have had the most amazing stories around having, accommodation, aeroplane tickets, all sorts of stuff gifted to them, which, if you look at it, isn't any difference between receiving the money to then actually pay for the things that you need or being gifted the things that you require.
Absolutely.
And so, again, don't get too attached to how the abundance shows up in your life. It's just to recognize that whatever my soul requires at this time, I will be supported, and to open yourself up to receiving that through your path of least resistance, right? And that could be in many, many different ways.
Absolutely. That's, I think, a hard part for people, because it's always, show me the money, show me the money. Come on, universe, show me the money, baby. But again, for me, it's been the same, right? Yeah. I have had money come out of the blue. I remember after playing this game for myself, and then I was sent $10,000, and that was one of the most beautiful evidences. Or when I first started and I had a plane ticket paid for me to Europe and 10 days of like luxury travel.
Wow. That's
like over 1,500, 2,000 euros worth. I've had a lot of homes. I was just in Vancouver. We needed a few days there. Suzanne and I reached out to just a lady I'd been recently connected with. We were staying on like the 40th floor in Vancouver downtown in an ensuite, like something you'd pay for like, $300 a night on Airbnb or something.
Yeah.
Now, really, if it's about you being able to do the things you need to do when you need to do them, if it's about you being able to follow your heart fully, if you can, then you can. You don't need more for the next week, and I've played this. I've gone to loads of different angles with it and watched how life shows up in the most miraculous ways, but that is a big piece. Look, all I'm asking life is that I have the freedom to follow my heart in every moment. That's what your game with life has to be. Not life, give me $3,000 so I feel safe enough to take the first step, Life's not going to work with you like that, because that's not how you truly want to work with you. Because this is about you finding freedom to be able to do the things you need to do, not need to have life in a certain way so that you feel courageous and bold enough to follow your heart, right? And so this is a really important piece. And at this point in this sharing is where I would invite you to really drop in, even stop it now, and just, receive, feel, because this is where a lot of us have our own journeys. To me, one of the things I look for in someone is how free are they to follow their heart, right? And we are all limited in our own ways in this, but this is, I think, a big invitation for you guys right now to just receive. Both of us have taken a lot of willingness, a lot of courage, a lot of boldness, and we're evidence if, hey, it's all good, Not just like, yeah, I scrape along and survive, but for the last 2 years, I've been living life in an abundant way, and I've stayed in beautiful places. I've been to beautiful places. I've been with beautiful people. I've eaten what I've wanted to eat. I have the equipment I need to create what I want to create, and I'm still going.
Yeah, you are.
And I haven't hit the end, and it only gets better. So there is the evidence right there, So many stories around it. Yeah, beautiful. So is there anything else that you feel inspired to share before we wrap up this time together today?
The final thing I'd like to share is to remember the perfection of who you are already, and that you are this extraordinary, complete and whole and perfect expression of the One, this divine being that, is eternal, hasn't begun, hasn't ended, and to really take a moment to value that. Like, how extraordinary is that? That natural worthiness, that natural fullness and completeness. It's so easy to buy into the conditioning out in the world that there's something wrong with us, that there's something missing, that there's something that we need to prove or do or achieve to receive the validation to then feel good enough or worthy. And this was a huge part of my process and my journey in order to really connect into self-love, and I still feel that there is a greater capacity for me to love myself at a deeper and deeper level, and life always presents these little interesting opportunities for me. So I just like to share that, because that was a message that I wish I had heard earlier on in my path, to be reminded of that completeness. And even if it doesn't stick, because sometimes the belief systems in the mind can reject incoming or new information, but if you can feel it in your heart and connect to the resonance of that, and make a decision for yourself that I choose to align to this deeper truth within myself, the magic of your life will certainly unfold at an accelerated rate.
I'm just receiving that too. So that is it for today, and I really invite you guys to receive whatever your medicine is in this, to not just take this on and have it as Nicolas's story or my journey or whatever, but actually find what is the invitation for you from this sharing. Put your focus on that over the coming days or weeks, and really let that embodiment grow in yourself. There's no point in consuming information for doses of inspiration, but the real goodness in receiving wisdom is to hear a conversation, to read something in a book, boom, see what you've received and go to work on it in your own life. Don't look for more. Take what has been given here and actually treasure that, put it in your heart, and take it to work over the next couple of weeks. Listen back to this. You don't need more if you've already received the piece of gold that's relevant for the next step of your journey. So thank you for bringing what you brought today. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
And so many blessings on your adventures, and thank you for being so true to the calling of your heart, to just walking the talk, from being a demonstration of what it is to just live a heart-centered life, to lead an authentic life, and be in integrity with your soul. It's a pleasure to be a friend and a companion on this journey. Yeah,
so excited to see where we all end up. Who knows where we're going to end up, but we will see. But I celebrate the joy of witnessing each other and being able to celebrate what does unfold and how we evolve in our lives, whether it's with you, whether it's with the other guys in the center, or whether it's with you guys out there. Who knows whether we will meet, and that would be a joy too.
Much love, guys. See you next time.
See you next time.